Hey guys, Boston Ramos, and this Sunday, the Miami Dolphins got their second win in a row, defeating another, former California team in the Las Vegas Raiders, 34 to 19. Miami comes out on top in what some could say like a pretty competitive matchup. Early, like pretty much up until the fourth quarter, it was a pretty competitive matchup. Aside from that, the Miami Dolphins separated there at the very end of the game and found themselves in a spot that a lot of teams hope to be in at this point of the season, down the stretch of games, separating themselves from the competition regardless of what level it may be. Now, it was a relatively close game, and then literally in the last 4 minutes, big breakout touchdown by Johnnu, and then the interception of Ramsey to seal it off. Pretty much phenomenal way to end it for this Dolphins team. Really just putting the exclamation point on this victory. Now, with that being said, let's get into this post-game review. Now, the Miami Dolphins, they came into this game at 3-6, leaving 4-6, and just another drop in the bucket. Just keep it going. I think Calais Campbell said it best in the post-game speech. In the locker room, he was just like, "Look, guys, we dug ourselves a massive fucking hole. Let's get ourselves out of it." And one game at a time, find your way to do it. And it's cool to see the fruits of this team's labor come out to fruition. I wish it was such a different circumstance where they weren't 4-6 and maybe they were 6-4 on the other end. But that's neither here nor there. This is the moment that the Dolphins are in, and they just got to keep it going and find a way to just keep pushing, keep winning a lot of these games. Dropped a lot of crucial games, but there's way more crucial games down the line, as long as they keep winning and advancing. And I didn't realize this in the week leading up to the game, but Anthony Weaver even said it even better. You thought, this shit was hard. Guess what? Dolphins are officially in the playoffs. They just got to keep on winning and winning and winning so they can get in that race and get into the playoffs. Now, I'll talk about that more later. Obviously, if you guys can't tell, my voice is pretty hoarse, so every now and then I'm going to be drinking out of my water bottle throughout the video just to kind of help myself out here. But yeah, let's talk about some team stats. The Dolphins had 25 first downs to the Raiders 22. In terms of red zone appearances and successful red zone attempts, Raiders were 1 of 3 and the Dolphins were 3 of 4. Penalties, uptake on penalties, it's not easy going up from 1 penalty to 4 penalties for Miami Dolphins. But yeah, the Raiders had 7 penalties for 49 total yards. Dolphins had 4 penalties for 23 total yards. The Raiders had a fumble loss and an interception. And then time of possession, not dominated, but the Dolphins controlled it with 33 minutes and 12 seconds to the Raiders' 26 minutes and 48 seconds. Aside from that, Dolphins outgained the Raiders by about, let's say, 25 or so yards, 328 to 353. Now, it wasn't an insanely impressive game by the Miami Dolphins. There were some lows and there were some highs for sure, but at the end of the day, I think they executed in certain phases of the game that allowed them to be in a position to win this matchup. Now, with my voice being hoarse, I'm not going to go through each and every individual player stat in terms of the box score, but don't worry, we're going to get to the highlight right now. So let's get into it. We got Mike McDaniel fired up after a big win on Monday Night Football last week, hosting the Las Vegas Raiders and Antonio Pierce. Early in this game, Johnnu Smith got acclimated, getting in the end zone for 6, and man, oh man, Tua's feeling it, rolling his shoulders, flexing on the Raiders. And then later on in the matchup, Tyreek Hill is rolling with Tua and finds Pay Dirt there in the end zone, keeps his feet in bounds. Tua was pretty hype after that one. But, the Raiders wouldn't go out without a fight. Gardner Minshew finds Brock Bowers in the flat for 6. He carries it in. But HN, shout out to HN, man, getting in the end zone for 6. No Guardian cap for him this week. Kind of interesting look. But, the Raiders still finding a way to compete. And here is Gardner Minshew helping get his running back in the end zone. But a defensive blow by the Las Vegas Raiders. Johnnu gets open in the back end of that secondary. He's like, I don't know. I just found an open spot. Here I am. But then the following drive for the Raiders, Jalen Ramsey picks up an easy interception. Gardner Minshew knows that's where he threw away the game there. And hey, shout out to Ramsey hitting another interception on the season. I believe that has him at 3 on the season. Final, Dolphins 34, Raiders 19. And, leaders of both teams meeting up at the end of the matchup. And, oh man, was it good to see a Dolphins dub in person. Consecutive week. Last week, Monday Night Football in LA, and then boom, this week in Miami. So it was good to see that continuous motion of the Dolphins executing pretty much on all phases of the ball. I understand the Raiders are not a great team, but neither here or there. The Dolphins found a way to, one, be effective offensively, and then on the other end, be effective defensively. Now, I had 3 keys to victory. The first one was to get a running game going. And it's a tough one to say. I felt like the running game wasn't necessarily, dire in this matchup. 82 yards rushing was not ideal. I was hoping for 100 plus. It is what it is. I think the running game was very complimentary to the passing game, and I think HN just ran it effectively. This week, averaging 4.3 yards per carry. Last week, averaging 3 yards per carry, and it felt like he was averaging even less in person. It just felt like, HN could not get any room against that Rams defense. This week, 4.3 yards per carry, not so bad for HN. Now, on top of that, I also mentioned that they need to get to Gardner Minshew. Dolphins had 3 sacks, and I could bet you they had more pressures. Dolphins had 4 pressures on the defensive, pressuring the quarterback. Not so bad at all. And on top of that, stuffing the Raiders' running game. Their lead ball carrier was Jacoby Myers. He had 1 carry for 20 yards. Aside from that, Alexander Madison, 5 carries for 19 yards. That was the highest amount. No other ball carrier carried for more than 10 yards. So, not so bad for the Dolphins' defense in that front. Getting to the quarterback, stopping the run, and that was an effective way to attack this Raiders offense. And then obviously offensively, wish we would have seen a little bit more from the running game, but HN did not do too bad with 73 total yards. I will say Tua had himself quite a game. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Was sacked twice for a loss of 17 yards, but it wasn't as bad as maybe some may think. Minshew wasn't all that bad either, with 282 yards. He went 30 of 43, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but was sacked 3 times for a loss of 14. And then when we talk about rushing, Raiders only had 60 yards on the ground, Jesus. And then the Dolphins, 82, which obviously not great, but HN carrying a boatload of that with 17 carries for 73 yards, not so bad. He had a big carry for 30 yards, which set up that Tyreek Hill touchdown. Sorry guys, it's not so good over here. Let's talk about the Raiders receivers. Their tight end, Brock Bowers, man oh man, that guy is legit. Seeing him in person hits different, and I think he's had the best game of his rookie campaign this week. He went 13 receptions for 126 yards, 1 touchdown, longest of 23, off of 16 targets. So the ball was coming to him pretty often. To put it in perspective, Gardner Minshew threw the ball 43 times. That means pretty much over a quarter of his targets, over a third of his targets were to Brock Bowers. Not a bad day for the rookie. Following up was Alexander Madison, 3 receptions for 50. For the Dolphins, I guess it was tight end day in Miami because Johnnu Smith had 6 receptions for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, longest of 57, which was that big touchdown that you guys saw there on the highlight. And then following that, Tyreek Hill, 7 receptions, 61 yards. Not so bad day for Tyreek. But Waddle, man, continuously having not the best season so far. This is arguably Waddle's worst year statistically of his entire career. And that's crazy to say because he's in year 4. But Waddle, 2 receptions for 37 yards. Not the best day for him, but hey, when your offense is doing what it needs to do in order to put yourself in the position to win, I feel like guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you know, as much as they are the superstars of this team, as much as they are like the focal point of the passing game, they can't be mad with these results, whether or not they're the guys surpassing 100 yards receiving, or if they're getting 2 touchdowns, etc., or if they're posting up 2 receptions for 37 yards. I understand. They want to get the ball. They want to be key contributors. But hey, a win's a win. Dolphins got to keep it rolling because there's no turning back right now. The Dolphins have flipped the switch, and they have a lot of momentum going into these next couple of games, and they're going to need them because it's going to be a tough stretch for this Miami Dolphins team, regardless of them saying, hey, you have the easiest schedule remaining of all the NFL teams. Bullshit. I think it's a tough stretch. So don't listen to all that. And I think the Dolphins just got to keep their heads on the swivel, understand what's ahead of them, and just be locked into that. So, aside from that, Tua did have a fumble, but it was recovered by no one. I don't know. It's not listed here as who had recovered it. I think it went out of bounds. Aside from that, Raiders' leading tackler was Robert Spillane with 11 total tackles. Jordan Brooks on the Dolphins side, 12 total tackles. Pretty great day on the defensive side. The Dolphins had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, 3 pass deflections, and 4 QB hits. And then for the Raiders, they had 2 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss. Good job out of the defense. I was surprised to see that double-digit tackles for a loss. Good on them. And then 2 pass deflections, 2 QB hits. Aside from that, Jalen Ramsey, 1 interception, returned for 7 yards. I'm not really going to go over kick returns. They weren't really that crucial. Neither was the punt returns. Kicking, Daniel Carson, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longest of 27, 1 for 1 on extra points. Jason Sanders went 2 for 2 on field goals, longest of 46, and 4 for 4 on extra points. Aside from that, no punts by the Dolphins, and then 1 punt by A.J. Cole for the Raiders for 54 total yards. It was in the 20, obviously his longest of the day. Now, Dolphins, 4-6. And if I'm not mistaken, all of the AFC East teams have played this week. Now, when I go through the AFC East standings, it's not to say, look at the standings, because the standings are done. The standings are done. You might as well give the Buffalo Bills their AFC East championship hats right now. They just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and they are 9-2 in the season and ended the Kansas City Chiefs undefeated season. Kudos to you guys. Thank you. But I don't know. Could the Dolphins make a run at it? I don't know. I don't think so. Losing both games to Buffalo definitely put a win in that sale. But yeah, Buffalo leads the division 9-2. Dolphins 4-6. Following the Dolphins are the New York Jets and the New England Patriots, both tied at 3-8. Now the AFC West is led by the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 9-1. Los Angeles Chargers 6-3. Denver Broncos, who are at 6-5, and the Las Vegas Raiders 2-8. The Los Angeles Chargers are currently playing against Cincinnati Bengals while making this video, so they will not have a finalized score by the time I record and edit this video, and so on and so forth. So, with that being said, the Miami Dolphins are in the driver's seat, I would say, for their future. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but the Dolphins did move up a spot in the playoff rankings. They moved ahead of the Cincinnati Bengals, but that also included that the Cincinnati Bengals have not finished their matchup yet. So, with that being said, Denver getting a win today, not so good for the Dolphins. Indianapolis Colts getting a win today, not so good for the Dolphins. And then I picked the Bengals to win, so let's see what happens there. But a Bengals win or loss doesn't necessarily help the Dolphins. So right now, Dolphins kind of be stuck at that 9-10 spot right now, hoping to make a push for that 7th seed. I think there's a lot of time. I think there's a lot of movement that could happen and could adjust this playoff picture. But for the time being, Dolphins suck at the 9-10 seed. Let's see what happens in the Sunday night matchup. I picked the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to win. So that may shake things up a bit, but it'll move the Dolphins back regardless of that. But yeah, pick a win by the Dolphins. I'm super happy that Dolphins have won 2 in a row, and they're just gonna try to keep things rolling. Moving forward, they do have some would say a cupcake matchup against the New England Patriots at home next week. Let's see what the Dolphins do. Let's see if they can, continue and get 3 straight now and just keep on stacking these W's, because the following week they have a tough matchup against the Green Bay Packers. And I'm telling you right now, that's not going to be an easy matchup, because Packers are pretty good. They have a great offensive system. Their defense is, I would say, just slightly above middle of the pack. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Miami Dolphins defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 34-19, improved to 4-6, and just improved their season. Just one a game at a time, just like Calais Samuel said. Dug themselves a hole. They got to dig themselves out of it. So that's all I got for the post-game review. Big win for the Dolphins against the Las Vegas Raiders. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry that my voice is so hoarse. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.